Welcome! In this session I would like to explain to you how to work with text files and with comma-separated valued files in Windows PowerShell. Before I start, I need to make sure that you have a full understanding of variables, aliases, how to use the pipeline, and how to use loops in Windows PowerShell. If you're unsure or you would like to refresh your memory, please view one of my earlier sessions. I will start off with the commandlet getContent. This commandlet can be used to read content from a file. We simply need to specify the path to the file that we would like to read. The sort object is a pipeline commandlet that can be used to sort information. We can use it by simply piping commands or other commandlets to the sort object commandlet. By default, the sorting order is an ascending order. If we would like to change that to descending, we can do so by specifying the descending parameter. If we have duplicate information returned by the sort object commandlet and we would like to remove these duplicates, we can do so by specifying the unique parameter. If we want to sort the content of a file, we can do that by simply piping the getContent commandlet to the sort object commandlet. To sort information in descending order, we pipe the commandlet to the sort order and add the descending parameter. To remove duplicate values, we can pipe the information to the sort object and add the unique parameter. If we need to get the line count, the character count, the word count on a text document, we can do so by using the measure object commandlet. To get the line count, we simply specify the line parameter. To get the character count, we specify the character parameter, and to get the word count, we specify the word parameter. Here is an example on how to get the line count on a text document. We pipe getContent to the measure object and then specify the line parameter. To get the character count, we can do so by specifying the character parameter, and to get the word count, we specify the word parameter. If we have a huge document, we can limit the output to only display a certain part of the document. To display the first 3 lines, there are 4 options that we can use. We can add the command in round brackets, then open a square bracket and write 0.2, which means the lines 0, that is the first line, all the way to 2, which is the third line, will be displayed. Another way to get the first 3 lines is to use the total count parameter, which will get the first 3 or the first couple of rows, however we specify. We can also use the head or the first parameters to achieve exactly the same. If we only want to get the last couple of lines, we can do so by using either tail or last parameters. To display the first 3 lines, we can add the command or the getContent commandlet to round brackets. Then we open a square bracket and write 0.2. Here we can specify any number, and if we wanted to display lines 10 to 20, we would add 9.19. With the total count, we can get the first lines of a file and just specify the number of the lines that we would like to have returned. In this case, we're specifying 3. We can get exactly the same if we specify the head parameter. This will also return the first 3 lines. And if we want to get the last 3 lines, we can do so by specifying the tail parameter, and with the 3 that will return the last 3 lines. To write data to a file, we can use the setContent commandlet. We need to specify the path and the value that we would like to write to the file. We can specify a string like hello world to write that to a file. Or we can create an object and then specify the object variable in the value parameter. Another way to write data to the file is to pipe the command into the setContent commandlet and specify the path where we would like to write the file to. If we need to export information to a CSV file, we can do so by using the Export-Csv commandlet. This commandlet has these parameters that are very helpful: the path, no type information, the encoding, the delimiter, use culture, append, and force. In the path parameter, we can specify the path where we would like to export the CSV to. We can either use the input object to specify the object we would like to create into a CSV by specifying the path where it should be saved. Or we can pipe another object or commandlet to the export-Csv with the path where it should save the file. Whenever you use the Export-Csv commandlet, it will export the information of the object that is being exported. If you don't want this information on the first line, you can use the No Type Information switch to disable it. Microsoft has made PowerShell very typing friendly, and instead of just typing No Type Information, we can simply specify type No Type and the commandlet will still work. Or we can even get away with just typing No T. By default, the Export-Csv commandlet exports the information in ASCII encoding. If this is not the result that you are looking for, you can change the encoding by specifying the encoding parameter. These are the encodings that are available. Here is an example on how to change the encoding to Unicode. CSV stands for comma separated value, but you don't always want to use a comma to separate values. If you need to change the delimiter to another character, you can do so by specifying the delimiter parameter with the delimiter that you would like to use. In this example, we are changing the delimiter to a semicolon. If for some reason you don't have access to replace the exported document, you can use the force switch to force the export without any prompts. I'm currently living in Germany, and the language settings here have the semicolon instead of a comma to separate values. Therefore, you can use the Use Culture switch to export information in whatever the user has set as a language preference. If we would like to add lines to an existing CSV file, we can do so by using the Append switch. We need to pipe the commandlet or object that we would like to add to the CSV to the Export-Csv commandlet, specify the path, and add the Append property switch. To import a CSV, we can use the Import-Csv commandlet. We simply need to specify the path to the file that we would like to import. If we want to use an object and convert it to comma-separated values, we can do so by using the ConvertTo-Csv commandlet. We can either pipe the commandlet or object to the ConvertTo-Csv commandlet to convert it, or we can use the input object property to convert it to comma-separated values. The same way we did this with Export-Csv, we can change the delimiter and no type information by specifying the parameter switches. To convert information from comma-separated values to an object, we can use the ConvertFrom-Csv to do this. This is where the type information is very important. It is used to change the CSV to the proper PowerShell object. We can either pipe the CSV to the ConvertFrom-Csv commandlet or add the CSV as the input object parameter. If we would like to change the header information while importing, we can do so by specifying the header parameter. Okay, let's wrap this up with a couple of examples in Windows PowerShell ISE. Okay, I've opened Windows PowerShell ISE to demonstrate to you how to work with text files and with comma-separated value files. The first commandlet that I'd like to start off with is the getContent commandlet. We can use this to get the information or the content of a file. The only thing we need to specify is the path. So if I run this command and read the information that is written into the sort TXT, I will get returned whatever has been written in that. I can use the sort object to sort information. The way to do this is to pipe it to the sort object. So I'm just going to get my same command and pipe it to the sort object. If I execute that, it will sort the information in ascending order. If I would like to sort it in descending order, I need to specify the descending parameter. So I'll run the same command again by specifying the descending parameter, and it will sort it in descending order. As you can see, we have duplicate values down here. If we do not want to have duplicate values, we can use the unique parameter. This way it will remove all the duplicates. Okay, next up we have the measure object commandlet. This can be used to read or get the line count, the character count, or the word count. I've created a news article with quite a lot of information in it. And if I pipe my get content command into my measure object and then specify the line parameter, it will return how many lines are in that file. If I would like to get my character count, I can do that by specifying the character parameter, or I can specify the word parameter to get my word count. Okay, if I would like to limit the information, if I've got a really big file, I can do that by first of all specifying my commandlet in round brackets and then using a square bracket to specify which information I would like to have returned. 0 is the first value and 2 would be the third value. The two dots just mean that I have everything from value 1 to all the way to value 3. So this will return the first 3 lines of that file. I can get the same thing if I use the total count property and specify 3. This will also return the first 3 values. Another way to do this is to use the head property and then specify 3. Or I can specify first. This will get or return exactly the same information. Okay, if I would like to get the last 3 values, -1 is the last value. So what I'll do is I'll start off from -3, which is the third last, -2 and -1. This will return the 3 last values. I can also use the tail to get the same effect. Or I can use the last parameter to get the same information. If I would like to have my the information returned in reverse order, I can specify -1, which would be the last value, then -2 and -3. So this will return the information in reverse order. If I would like to get information somewhere in the middle, I just specify 3 to 5. This will return the lines 4 to 6. So if I execute this, you will notice that it will return line 4 to 6. Okay, the next up I'll show you how to use the set content commandlet. This can be used to write information to a file. The only thing we need to specify is the path to the file that we would like to write it to and the value of what we would like to write. So I'm going to write hello world into a text file called test hello. If I get the information on that file or get content, you will notice that it's written hello world into that file. We can also pipe information into the set content. So what we'll do is we'll get the first 3 lines of our sort text document and then pipe that to a new file called sample.txt. If I execute that and get the content from that file, I only have 3 values written into that file. To use the Export-Csv, we can create an object and then we can pipe that to the Export-Csv. What I'm doing here is I'm creating a service variable object and from my get service, and I'm specifying where the object name equals to spooler, that we only get 1 service, and I can now pipe my object into my Export-to-CSV to create a CSV file. By default, the Export-Csv will export the type information on the first line. So if I get the first line from my file, you will notice that it has created a type information as the first line. If I don't want to have this, I can specify my no type information property to remove that. So if I export this again with my no type information property and now get my first line of my file that I've been created, you will notice that it actually created the header as the first line. If I need to change the encoding, I can do that by specifying the encoding parameter. I just specify the encoding parameter and, for example, use Unicode to export that. And again, I'm specifying no type information. If I execute that, it will create, or the encoding will be in Unicode. If I need to change the delimiter, I can do that by specifying the delimiter parameter. And I can specify whichever delimiter I would like to use. And if I run this command, it will export my object as a CSV with semicolons as delimiters. As you can see down here, it's semicolons. If for some reason I don't have access to the file, I can use the force parameter by forcing the export. So if I just use the force switch, it will try to force the export. The use culture parameter can be used to export the CSV file in the language preference, whatever the user has set. My computer is set to German. So if I export this, it will export the information with a semicolon. So if I run that, you will see that it's, instead of using commas, it's actually used semicolons to export the information. Okay, up next, I am running a command and, okay, first of all, I'm creating a file and I am selecting, getting the date, I'm selecting the object, I just want the seconds and the milliseconds, and I'm exporting that to a file called Append, and I can get away with no T, specifying for no type information. So I'll execute that. Now to append a file, the file needs to exist and it needs to have exactly the same header information than what you're trying to import. So what I'm going to do is I've written a little for script that runs from everything from 1 all the way to 8, and it will get the second or millisecond and second information and export that into my file, and it will append it, so it will add the information to the file. So if I run this command and then get the information, you will see that it's actually written the milliseconds and the seconds into my file. Okay, up next I would like to demonstrate the append with a new object. So what I'll do is, again, I need to create or get the content. I've created a file already. It's called employee. I'll just run that to show you. I've got the name, department, and job title. Now what I need to do is I am creating an object, a CSV object from my file. And I'll show you, I'll count the information. There are 10 lines that have been written into that file already. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new object. The type is a PS object, and I need to specify the property names. These are the header informations. So my property name will be my name, my property department will be IT, and my job title will be PowerShell admin. So I can create this new object, and now I can, instead of piping it, I can use the Export-Csv and use the input object, specify my newly created object. Then I'll specify the path and I'll specify append to actually add that to my file. So if I run this command, and I'll just create another variable, and you will notice that now I have 11 lines in that file. And if I execute my file, you will see that it's actually added my information at the bottom. If I need to delete the last file, I will use my CSV variable, and I am going to take my CSV value. I want to have my first line. Then I am going to remove. If I show you the count again, I'll just execute this. You will notice that it has 11 minus 2. And this will add up to 9. So I'm taking all the values from 0 and then to 9. If I execute that, this will remove the last line. And then I can use the set content to write the information back to the file. I'll specify my value, my CSV object, and my path. If I execute that, it will write the information. And now, if I get my information, you will notice that it's actually removed the last line. Okay, next up, I'll demonstrate to you how to use the Import-Csv. We'll use the services CSV that we've created earlier. So I can use that by running Import-Csv, and this actually creates an object from that CSV. And I can do the same with my employees file, and I'll just specify where the department equals to finance. So if I execute this, it'll create an object with those two values. Okay, to use the ConvertTo-Csv, we're going to create an object variable from our process where the spooler is equal to, or this process name is equal to spool.sv, and then we're going to convert that to a CSV file. Okay, now it's converted it to a CSV. So if I execute this, you will notice that it's actually a comma-separated value object. Now I can just show you how many lines are in there. We've got 3 lines. My first line is my type information. My second line is my header information. And I'm going to change my header information. I need to specify whatever I would like to have as the header. So I'll run this. I'll just create another variable. Then I'm going to delete my header line, and I'm going to replace that with my newly created line. To be able to do that, I'm going to take my first line. I want that to stay in there, or I want that to stay. Then I'm going to take, I'll just show you, my count was 3. Then I'm going to say count to 1. That is 2. So I'm going to take everything from line 2 onwards. That will, oops, that is actually not what I wanted to show you. It'll 2 from 2. One more. That doesn't work either, but I'm going to just execute this, and it will create an object without my header information. Now if I use my ConvertFrom-Csv, and I'm going to include a header and specify my header information that I've added just before, and I execute that, I have replaced my header information and turned it into an object. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the session, and I'm looking forward to our next one.